Here's Brody Brazil.
You know, it certainly is interesting how things unfold sometimes, because it felt like for a majority of this summer, there were daily updates on the existence, the evolution, and the persistence of the Orlando Dreamers. I was doing a bunch of YouTube videos and coverage of that situation, and now they might be done. Simple as that. And that's kind of what happens when two of your main investors absolutely walk away from the project. I'm not saying 1,000% certain they're done, but it seems like, for all intents and purposes, they don't really have a direct path forward anymore. Now, they were chasing the Tampa Bay Rays and all the uncertainty of a stadium situation, of a potential sale, which, by the way, is still not done and complete. But in terms of the Dreamers, when you don't have that financial backing, what exactly do you have? And the most recent development was that the Dreamers were moving into a brand new office space in downtown Orlando. They had like the temporary third floor spot until they got the ground floor location in 6 months all squared away. I wonder now if this is all still happening. And look, buying an office, getting some office space, that doesn't necessarily mean you're moving forward. And obviously the Rays situation might be a closed door. The Dreamers group was still hoping for Major League Baseball expansion. That was talked about by Manfred, but that's still a ways down the road. I'm not saying that when you open up an office, that means you're the real deal. But it gave you an idea of how serious the investment was and the project was and the people were, and they still might be. It's just going to be that much more of an uphill battle with no financial backing. There was this momentum in Orlando. The Dreamers had secured 3,500 square feet of office space, a 3-year lease. I just showed you the pictures. They announced back as recently as August 12th, which is basically a month ago, that they had reached fundraising now up to $2 billion. I think at first it was about 1, then 1.5, and $2 billion. Eventually, you were going to need probably close to $2 billion if you were going to buy the Rays, and then another $2 billion if you were going to fund some sort of stadium. So they were on the way to an eventual target, an eventual financial goal. They had some momentum financially, as well as traction, obviously, socially, and trying to build their brand. They were also obviously re-energized by Rob Manfred's semi-recent comments about expansion probably happening. Now, you can't say that's a guarantee. That's just what the commissioner said on an ESPN broadcast during the game, but it kind of refueled their fire about getting something done, even if the Tampa Bay Rays were staying in Tampa or St. Pete, and that was going to be a done deal. They still had some optimism surrounding eventually getting a Major League Baseball team in Orlando. But now things have, like I said, dramatically fallen apart. And we get this reporting from the Orlando Business Journal, which says the primary financial backer for a local group attempting to bring a Major League Baseball team to Orange County, Orlando, has joined the group in the process of buying the Tampa Bay Rays. Whoa! Who saw this coming? Rick Workman was the backbone, the financial backbone of the Orlando Dreamers. Now he has jumped ship over to the Tampa Bay Rays purchase. What made that happen? Was he lured in? Was he asked to be part of this? Did he desire to get out of the Dreamers situation? More on that in just a second, but I want to plant that seed in your head. Why did this happen like that? Very interesting. An Orlando Dreamers spokesperson confirmed to the Orlando Business Journal that Dr. Rick Workman, who is was the anchor investor for the Dreamers, will own a third largest, by the way, portion of the Rays once owner Stuart Sternberg finalizes the sale of the franchise to Jacksonville-based developer Patrick Zulpuski. And again, that sale is expected to happen at some point during this month of September. I've always said probably closer to the end of the month. Just makes sense of lack of distraction with the actual baseball team during a season. Usually baseball likes to do this stuff nice and tidy day or two after the regular season and then move forward to next season. So I'm not saying that there's anything sketchy yet, but if you don't see this deal be complete by October 7th, hypothetically, let's say, then I might have some questions. But as of right now, Dr. Rick Workman said to be the third largest investor of the new Tampa Bay Rays purchase. What about John Morgan? He was the other half of this tandem, and I shouldn't say half equally. He was putting in only $300 million, but still a significant amount. He was kind of like the number 2 clear investor with the Dreamers. He's like this, quote, "I'm out. The fix is in." Whoa. He doesn't seem happy about this. He seems left out about this. He seems like maybe he's got some resentment. And look, just maybe in a strong quote, maybe that's how he really feels. But he says, I'll have to find another place to invest $300 million. What I believe will now happen is this group will seek, the Tampa group, will seek a sweetheart deal in Tampa while stringing the prospects of Orlando as a bargaining chip, and get lots of free land and entitlements and make a real estate profit on the surrounding land at the taxpayer's expense. Certainly not for the people, but for the rich people. Whoa. So he's not only saying, I'm out, this was all a plot, this continues to be a plot. Dr. Rick Workman's going to go over there to Tampa. They're going to try and keep that baseball team in the Rays in Tampa, the Rays in Tampa, and try and use Orlando as a bargaining chip to get a better deal down there. Wow. I mean, he's throwing stones as he's also exiting the Orlando Dreamers situation. So that's kind of telling right there how John Morgan feels about this. He also said, quote, I have zero interest in investing in Tampa. I just wish the commissioner had been more forthright with his intentions. Now he's kind of bringing in Rob Manfred to the conversation. What did Manfred say to the Dreamers group? What is John Morgan detailing there? Obviously, it's a little bit vague in the specifics, but there was some communication there. Jim Schnorf is the longtime co-founder of the Orlando Dreamers, so not in the financial aspect, but in the leadership aspect. He said, quote, the initiative to bring MLB to Orlando continues forward. Thanks again for the continued interest and strong support. What else are you supposed to say? He's not ready to fold the tent up yet, but it kind of feels like that. All right, let's get to some takeaways here. I think the obvious question and probably statement, more a statement than a question, is, are the Dreamers just done? Do all their efforts die without any funding? How about the office space? How about Barry Larkin's salary? How about a staff of people they were set to hire and move forward? How can you make progress if people aren't working on this and people aren't getting paid as their job? Is this now a nonprofit situation? I laugh, but I don't see any path forward without the financial backing of this, and you can't be taken seriously without that. Does Orlando really, as John Morgan claims, does it really only exist? Are the Dreamers actually hurting their own case by only striking a better deal for the Tampa Bay Rays if that purchase happens, if they get a new stadium, if they use Orlando as a bargaining chip, all of that included here? Is that the only reason Orlando and the Dreamers, I say, are existing right now? Let's go back to something I posed earlier. Why did Dr. Rick Workman have such a quick change of heart to Tampa? He was the guy that came in and said, I've got interest in Orlando, and this makes a lot of sense, and I love baseball, and I've always wanted to own a baseball team. Well, maybe that's simply won out. Maybe that's all he wanted out of this, was to be part of an MLB ownership group. In Orlando, he was going to be the principal owner. Now with Tampa, he'll be number 3 in line, and maybe with some perks. Who knows exactly how that's going to play out, but again, was this his idea to jump ship? Was he asked to be part of the Rays purchase? Did the Rays purchase need him as part of their purchase? We don't know yet, and obviously that's not something that Workman or Zulpuski or anybody's going to talk about yet, or maybe ever at this point. The last thing here is, if you're Orlando, I mean, to believe that the commissioner is saying MLB expansion is going to happen, yeah, but when and how? There's still a work stoppage to deal with. There's television contracts to deal with. There's now the gambling scandal, which hasn't been talked about in recent times. You've still got 2 Guardians players sidelined for the rest of this season just because the delay keeps happening. But there's a lot of other higher level things for baseball to pursue. I'm not saying all those things interfere with expansion, but those are higher level situations that baseball needs to sort out first before they can get to something fun and meaningful and important like expansion. So I don't know the answer to that. I wouldn't just believe that, oh yeah, expansion is still happening in 2 years. I mean, it might be happening, but more like 6 years for the announcement, not even the existence of the Dreamers or anybody else. I don't take any pride in saying they're done. Like I said, I never had a horse in the race of the Rays situation other than the fans in Tampa, and certainly where the team is going to end up. I'm interested. I'm curious. I'm not happy to see the Dreamers seemingly be shut down, but it does certainly feel from the outside like this is the end of something, certainly an era, if not the entire Dreamers' existence. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. Also, while you're down there, thumbs up on this video helps me, this video, and this channel. And don't forget, hit the subscribe button. I'd love to see you back here next time.